Um, so we're coming up to a very busy period for the company. We're going to be starting off with the recommencement of testing of well chow, and then commencing drilling on our shallow gas play, and that'll be an important well. And we hope, the beginning of many more wells targeting shallow gas in Austria. So when you look at the company in summary, I think, the main feature of the company is we do have established production, which generates stable cash flow and obviously helps us fund our general administration costs, as well as developing new opportunities for the company, so that we can then go and either raise money through equity or through farm out drilling. I think we're very well positioned in the countries where we operate. We have premium gas markets and very good infrastructure in all our locations. We've got a good growth pipeline of near-term low-risk drilling opportunities and in Austria and Italy. And what we will see also coming up much more so in Italy is also some offshore opportunities which are quite compelling. We're fortunate and quite unusual for a company of our size to have an experienced management team and actually boots on the ground that can not only generate exploration opportunities but operate assets as well. So, the key features of our portfolio is a large gas prospect inventory of around 374 BCF in Austria and 31 million barrels of oil. And in our new Sicily channel permit, we've got about 620 BCF of gas at a most likely level. As I said early, operating capability is very important for us. That's what allows us to generate opportunities, allows us to actually drill wells and hopefully develop fields. So, and we've been doing all of that in the last 3 or 4 years since we entered Austria. A lot of our drilling has been funded by farm outs, and that helps us accelerate programs, minimize the amount of equity we need to raise, and reduce risk. So the key areas we operate, Austria, Italy, and Romania, are fairly good premium locations, certainly for the exploration and development of hydrocarbons. They're sort of certainly in the case of Austria and Italy, they're tier 1 jurisdictions. We've got very good legal transparency, and certainly in Austria, we're able to get things done very quickly. I mean, we can permit an onshore well within 6 months. If you're in the UK, you probably couldn't do it at all. If you're in Australia, it can take you up to 2 years. We've got very clear established license arrangement. We've got access to good contractors, and most importantly, when you make a discovery, you've got access to infrastructure and high-value energy markets. So our gas is sold at Central European gas prices, which are probably equivalent to US $11 per MCF, and our oil is sold at Brent price equivalent, which is a great thing. I won't go through our capital structure. You can see I won't be one of those directors that complains about our value. We just need to keep doing what we're doing, and I think we'll become more fairly valued as time goes on. So I think where we are in both Austria and Italy particularly, they are very strategic locations for the development and exploration of oil and gas. Italy was a disappointment for quite some time. We had a string of 5 socialist governments that prevented anyone from just about doing anything. Now with the government of Prime Minister Meloni, that's changed very significantly, and hydrocarbons are very well respected and sought after. And actually Italy is one of the premier locations in terms of finding gas, because they import about 93% of their gas and probably has the highest gas price in Europe. So most of Italy's gas either comes through the southern gas pipelines that you can see from Algeria, or it has to find its way down through Europe. So typically it trades at around 5 to 10% more expensive than the CGEH prices at the Central European Gas Hub. Similarly, in Austria, we're very fortunate. We've got excellent infrastructure for both oil and gas. Austria has a state-of-the-art refinery, but only produces out of 120,000 barrels a day, only about 20% of the required production. So any oil that can go into that refinery is very highly valued. And also 95% of its gas historically would come from Russia. So like many countries in Europe, Austria is in a bit of a bind for gas. And again, any domestic gas that can be developed and produced is of real value. I guess another thing that is really important in both jurisdictions in which we operate is data. We quite often forget that in some cases you can get into acreage where, particularly in Austria and also in Italy, where there's data present. It probably cuts down the exploration cycle by about 3 or 4 years. In Austria, we're very lucky that we've got about 3,500 square kilometres of 3D seismic, which has enabled us to generate prospects very quickly. And now in Italy, we've got some historic data, wells, and 2D seismic, which has allowed us to very quickly understand the potential of that Sicily Channel permit for gas. So our near-term activities, of course, importantly, try to maintain stable production. That is challenging with particularly our older field in the Vienna Basin. Some of those wells do suffer from corrosion, so it's an ongoing challenge to keep those wells going, and we have to do workovers every year to maintain that production. We had an interruption to the testing of Welchau. Obviously, we intersected a very large hydrocarbon column, and we're trying to learn what that column is about. And 2 out of the 3 zones that were encountered in Welchau are still untested. Now, what we've been developing over about the last 2 years is a shallow gas play. That play is one that we've been able to generate through historical data, again 3D seismic. What we've been able to do is observe, where there's been historical discoveries in a play that extends across the basin, and a lot of those discoveries were drilled when they were trying to drill for deeper oil. And now what we've been able to do is map out areas where that shallow gas opportunity exists and has not been previously exploited. So right now we've got 3 drill-ready wells, both in terms of maturity and also permitting, and we've got about 7 follow-ups in that play. So that could be a very valuable play for us because it can provide cash flow very quickly. Because we're very close to infrastructure, and we can get these developments into production very quickly and economically.
Have you got any farming partners for that bit?
Not as yet. We had 2 cracks at it. We didn't get the terms we wanted, so we're actually drilling wells that we're already 50% with M&D. So we'll drill those areas first, and then we'll see where we end up with farming partners. So we're having we actually concentrated on 2 parties. Now we're sort of going out to a much wider, if you like, spread. So we'll see how that goes over the next few months. At Anshoff, obviously, we've got a very rapid tie-in opportunity. Anshoff is producing at around 100 barrels a day. It seems to have stabilised, but we've got capacity there for about 3,000 barrels a day. So anything we can do to bring in, if you like, new oil production there will be very valuable. And we've been working pretty hard on generating new prospects, which we hope will be able to maybe commence drilling in the second half of this year. And then there's always the high impact exploration. We've drilled Welchau. We've probably drilled maybe halfway through the sequence. We still have the opportunity to deepen that well, and we see some very good potential deeper below what we've already discovered. And there's other prospects as well that we've been generating, gas prospects as well. We've been reprocessing seismic to go after these. But these are more expensive wells. The shallow gas wells are probably around 2.3 million euros to drill. These other wells, Wellchow is a relatively cheap well because it's quite shallow. But some of the deeper plays we're looking at, while the reserves are much larger, we're looking at well costs of around 4, 5, 6 million euros. So they will be things that we'll obviously want to drill with Farmanese. And I think what provides a very important, if you like, other string to our bow is the Sicily Channel permit. We're now in the process of purchasing additional seismic. Those have been with us for a while. We actually made an application in 2014, and for actually what was going to be a brownfields oil redevelopment. Now we're not allowed to actually drill for the oil, but we're allowed to go for the gas. But what's changed or what's evolved is this is a gas play that's been successful onshore. It's also been successful offshore, and it's in a great location. We're in 100 meters of water, and a lot of the gas sand we can see on seismic, and we can also see them on historic wells, are somewhere between, say, 1,200 meters to 1,600 meters. So if you're going to be offshore, it's about one of the best places I've seen to be offshore. It could be a very simple subsea tieback to an onshore gas plant at Lepone Massara. So we'll be coming up with new resources with our additional seismic, and we'll probably be able to share that within the next, say, 2 to 3 months. We're in the process of buying the seismic now, and then obviously the additional seismic will build that into the work that we've already done with our existing data. And then what we'd hope to do is get an independent experts report done to potentially either attract a Farmanese, or alternatively, if we have some nice discoveries in Austria, we might just decide to shoot 3D seismic ourselves. So we have flexibility. The good thing about Italy is not an extensive work program. Each year you can do your work program. If you don't like what you see, you can drop the permit. But we already know we like what we see. So our current activities, we've been focusing on getting additional testing at Wellchow. So we've contracted a workover rig and testing service. We should be able to mobilise in early February, weather permitting. It's pretty cold over there at the moment. And then testing will commence with the upper rifling formation, and we'll also include a stimulation program. These are tight rocks, but hopefully with some stimulation we can get some joy out of it. But Wellchow is not just what we've discovered already. It's a new play. It's got a lot of potential, a lot of running room. So what we're trying to do, I mean, if we're a big company, we'd be drilling wells and doing lots of things. Obviously, we can't afford that, so we're going to have to take a more kind of stepwise process. But what we believe in the longer term, this can be a very valuable play for us, because you've got the potential for big gas and big oil reserves in the heart of Europe, right next to big interconnectors between Austria and Germany. Shallow gas program, now we've been able to get our environmental and mining approvals just completed. On one of the wells, we've still got a public process which will run another month, but the first 2 wells are already permitted, and we're going to start drilling the Hosh number 1 well. We should start well site construction next week, and then we should be spudding that well sometime in March. These well sites take about 5 or 6 weeks to complete. And as I said earlier, in the Sicily Channel, we've been actually Paul and some of our team have been in the data room. E&I sets up data rooms. You actually go in there. Actually, E&I, even though they're kind of the national oil company, they're also the custodian of data in Italy. So you go in there, they provide a data room, and then you can buy additional seismic, and that's what we're doing right at this moment. And then that'll enable us to incorporate that additional seismic, maybe even generate some more prospects, or just provide more, if you like, certainty around our existing prospects, that we would then go to an independent expert's report and then assess if we were to move forward, what sort of seismic program we would require.
Just, can you just remind me what a BCF worth in Austria?
A BCF of gas is worth about 10 million US in the ground.
Yeah.
So if you, yeah. So what these shallow gas prospects, are probably worth about 80 million euros, but they would generate revenues of around 50 million euros.
Okay.
So even though they're relatively small because of the price and also the relatively low capex, they can be really valuable. So if we can put together, say, 5 of these, then we could be looking at something that is quite transformative, because even though they're relatively shallow, they're pretty young Miocene sands, and they can also be quite productive. So this just shows you, where we are and what we're doing. If we follow the numbers, number 1 is Welchau. That's where we'll start with testing. Then we'll move over to Hochfeld in ADX AT1, and then that we'll drill that well with our partner M&D. And then after that, we hope to move over to Goldbrunn, and Goldbrunn's a very good prospect. We like it a lot. It's something we'd even contemplate under the, if we have good results at Hochfeld and we get the right share price appreciation, we might even consider that, drilling that at 100%. And then it's got 2 follow-ups. So what we're trying to do here is drill prospects that, you drill a prospect, you're successful, you create the infrastructure, and then you can actually put additional gas through that infrastructure. So you can sort of take something that would produce at, say, 5 or 10 million standard cubic feet for 4 or 5 years and be able to extend it out to 10 years. Now, Hochfeld's a good prospect because, the mid case is around 8 BCF, but the upside is quite large. It's up to 18 BCF.
Just quickly, and who's responsible now for funding of the Welchau redevelopment? Has the promote finished?
Yes, it is.
So it's 50-50.
No, we're 75-25. The testing program is going to be relatively cheap. So what we would do, and look, I think the partner that we have is probably not long for this world. Well, not for long for the European world. So they're sort of getting out of all their assets. They haven't done very well. They went into Germany. I've got to be careful what I say. They probably didn't get the results they were looking for. And as a result, I'm not sure that they'd be into the deepening of Welchau. So when we go to the next phase, we'll probably be looking at bringing in a farmer.
Are they still committed for the work over?
They are, they put money in for the work.
And easy to find the next person to put this.
Oh, look, nothing's ever easy. But look, I think that what we're trying to do is also look at, some new seismic techniques that we could use to also make it, a more compelling target. I mean, these targets are sort of around the 200 BCF range, and we're in 7-inch casing. We could probably hit that for under 700,000 or 800,000 euros. So if we do the work and we can, if you like, reduce the risk of drilling deeper through better data, I think actually getting someone on board should be something that companies should be interested in.
Yeah,
I mean,
but for 800,000, you're not going to go try and farm that out. Sure.
No, well, correct. You're right. It's something that we could do ourselves.
Yeah, and you've got 100% upside.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, it's the good thing about Welchau, and I guess what interested me, even though, the risks, obvious risks, we had about a 20% chance of success, the resource potential is quite large, and it is relatively shallow. Now, having said that, the same well that, we've drilled to that sort of depth took us about 17 days. When it was drilled in the 80s, it took OMV about 2 months. And so the good thing is obviously with new drilling techniques, we can drill these things a lot faster. And we've been pretty fortunate to get down there without any mishaps. So far that's been good. And now we're there. Obviously, there's a big motivation to go deeper. This just shows you our production assets. Obviously, we're in nice locations, and we've got assets that are. I mean, I wouldn't call them Rolls Royce, but I'd call them Cadillac. Sorry, I keep pressing the wrong button. So look, I mean, bottom line is there's a lot of motivation to keep oil going through those facilities. The one on the left, the Vienna Basin fields. I mean, obviously they're set up, they're connected to the pipeline into the Austrian, into the Vienna refinery. We pay no royalty there. So anything we can do to enhance production there and maintain production is very valuable. In the case of Anshoff, you've got a great facility. We were able to buy that facility effectively and install it for about 2 million euros. To buy that facility new would have been probably nowadays well over 10 or 12 million euros. We were just lucky that a German operator had built the facility, put it in an oil field, and it didn't flow. So it had been sitting there for 5 years. So we're the beneficiary of that. This is just a little bit more about our, showing you our portfolio in Austria. As I mentioned earlier, we've got nearly 400 BCF of gas potential, and it's amongst the red shallow gas, the darker red, which is the shallow gas, which is low risk. It does really, it's very easy. Well, I would say easy. It's easy to map on 3D seismic. The deeper plays are more complex. They're larger, but obviously also provide much larger resource potential. So right now we want to concentrate on the shallow gas because the risk of the chance of success is anywhere from sort of 60 to 80, 90%, which is pretty rare offshore. I'm sorry, onshore. Offshore it's less rare, but it's just the quality of the seismic and the fact that it's shallow, the gas, it's much more easy to distinguish between gas filled sands and say water filled sands. The portfolio's changed. It's become more gassy, but also obviously gas is very important in Europe. But then you can see around the Anshoff field we're developing a number of new prospects, and if we can get those sort of prospect sizes up to sort of 5 or 6 million barrels onshore, then that starts to look pretty exciting. All right, this is kind of an interesting display because it really kind of shows what we've been doing over the last 2 years. And where you can see those bright red spots, they're what we call, amplitudes. And so with those amplitudes, I guess, are quite diagnostic of gas. And what we've done historically is look where there's been gas discoveries, what the seismic signature is, where there's those discoveries, and then say, okay, where do we see the similar seismic signature that hasn't been tested? And these are all follow-up targets. This is Goldbrunn, this is Hochfeld and Schonfeld. So they share the same seismic signatures as historically successful wells, but they haven't been drilled. Now, one of the nice things about the Austrian licensing regime, once you've got a license to stay 1,000 square kilometres, you can actually change the shape of the license as long as it's contiguous. So this play here around Goldbrunn was somewhere that we lopped off some acreage in one area and added in this area, and we've been able to bring those prospects into the portfolio.
So you can creep around, just moving.
We do creep around. Yeah, no, it's very unusual. It's look, it's the thing is when you pick up what they call an AGS license, you make certain commitments to the government in terms of funding work program, and rental fees and things like that. So once you've made those commitments, they're saying, well, it doesn't matter where you are, you've made those financial commitments. You might as well go wherever you think you're going to be able to, enhance your prospectivity, because providing obviously that someone else hasn't been successful. Now, one of the big advantages we have in Austria is we got great second mover advantage, because the company that was originally there, that we basically bought our Vienna Basin fields from. We also got access to data. Basically decided to get out of exploration, and we came in. So they had about 3,500 square kilometres of acreage, and we picked up about 1,000 square kilometres, where we sort of high graded. Actually, a lot of the prospects historically when we came in with it, also their prospects that we've sort of fine tuned, and that's how we've been able to build our portfolio. And Hochfeld actually is one that wasn't in their portfolio. It's actually one that was developed by a very good British sequence stratigrapher, and then he sort of developed the play, and then our geoscientists, particularly our geophysicists in Austria, has been kind of perfecting. So this is Hochfeld. It's if you look at the sort of the mid case, it's around 8 BCF, but there's quite a bit of extra potential. If it works, it could be very, very valuable to us. And we'll start drilling that in March. And just to give you, this is a slide that's been there before. It just gives you an example of what you can do. And this is what we hope to do with gold. Drill Goldbrunn first. But then if we're successful with Goldbrunn, then it gives us the opportunity to add in additional prospects. So what you do is you tie in gold first, and then you follow up with additional prospects. So you'd end up, rather than having a profile that looks like the red and the black together, you'll also add in the grey. And obviously that it much improves your, if you like, your reserves per capex, and actually has a big improvement on your profitability. So it's always good to have these things that are kind of standalone 8 BCF. That's very healthy. Gold, if you, what the gold cluster would look like, this is what gold on its own would look like if it comes in 8 BCF, would generate around 50 million of net revenue. So that's a very valuable commodity for us. So this just shows you Welchau, where we've drilled to date. We've discovered around 450 meters of hydrocarbons. Some of it's obviously water and oil and water. It's quite complex. Carbonate reservoirs are typically complex and take time to understand. So what we're doing next is going to go up to this higher reservoir. We've tested down here. We actually recovered oil from downhole samplers. When we went and tested, we kind of hit a water superhighway through one of the fractures, and we produced a lot of water, but there's still a lot of unknowns there. Also, when we map deeper, we're down to an area where the historical well found gas, and we sort of feel that there's a number of, if you like, structures here that could be full of gas and would be relatively cheap to get to. So that's obviously first cab off the rank is more testing. We'd probably be able to drill a Welchau deep within around 12 to 18 months. Okay, moving on to Sicily. Obviously, it's an emerging gas province. I mean, historically, Lipone Massara was discovered 20, 30 years ago. Then E&I were probably at a similar stage to us about 4 or 5 years ago. They had some 2D seismic. They went out, they made a discovery, then they shot 3D. And since they shot 3D, everything they drilled for has been a discovery. So it's a very similar play to what we have here. And those of you who've been with us for a while, we actually drilled a well off here, which also at that same Miocene level intersected a lot of gas. In fact, we almost lost that well because we were getting so many gas kicks. The weather was horrible, and I remember being on the rig and we had to actually fly in Bayreuth to be able to control the well. So at that point in time, obviously, we're in 700 meters of water there. That was of no real value. It was just an annoyance. But the beauty of this play, again, we're in shallow water. Here you've got an existing field that's connected to the Transmed pipeline, which is the major trunk line bringing gas into Italy. And in this area, we've had gas shows in wells, and we've got relatively high quality 2D seismic, given its age. We're very close to a tying point, and we've got stacked pay. And these are, again, very highly productive sands. And it's a sweet gas. And by sweet gas, we mean it's 99% methane. So also it makes it a lot easier in the sense that you don't have to do a lot of processing. In Italy, the fiscal terms are probably some of the best terms in Europe. There's only 10% royalty, and that could bring the corporate tax down a bit, 28%, but 10% royalty is pretty exceptional. And as I mentioned earlier, excellent pricing for gas. So we recently updated our resources estimates. We put together resource estimates in 2022 when the ministry came back to us and said, look, we'll award you the permit, but you've got to go for gas. So we put some prospects together. We went back to them and said, these are the things we'd go after. We had a sort of a resource of around 360 BCF on closer inspection, more seismic, and also bringing in some good know-how from Italy, who looked at historic wells. Paolo Pace, who's an Italy expert, identified gas in shallow wells, and we've been able to bring up that mean resource up to around 600 BCF. But you can see the upside is very large. I mean, you'd be very happy finding that in the Northwest Shelf. Unfortunately, the Northwest Shelf, you have to move it 100 kilometres and in deep water. In this case, it's only 50 kilometres and very benign conditions in the Mediterranean. And the beauty of having this shallow water is you don't need any structures. So, it's less likely someone's going to get upset, sitting on their recliner on the beach in Sicily. Now, we've got a lot of knowledge here, and it all started when we were actually in the offshore Tunisia permit, and we actually did drill the well there, and we had very good gas shows. So that was in our Pantelleria block, and you can see the evidence of stack stands and where we had gas shows. But there's also very good historic data and historic well data, and we can also see the potential for stacked gas pay, and we've also seen it with gas shows in the well. So it's very rare that you can go into an exploration block that's already been drilled. But the nice thing about gas is, for 30 years, people have been exploring for oil, they've been finding gas, and nobody cared. Now, if you can find those blocks now, where you've got that historic data, they're extremely valuable. So, that's in our permit. And then we've also got a similar situation onshore Sicily in the Lapona Massara field. And then more recently, we've got, state-of-the-art seismic from E&I. And again, that shows very, very clearly where these stack sands occur. And we think we've got a very good analogy to what E&I has, both onshore and offshore. Now, again, this just kind of shows you what the pie chart looks for offshore Sicily. If we had 300 BCF of gas in Sicily, that's sort of half our kind of best case or mean estimate now. The numbers look very different. Instead of 50 odd million of net revenue, you're looking at 1.6 billion of net revenue. And that's because you're in shallow water, shallow drill depths, and something that can be developed with relatively low capex. Now, I've got an engineering outfit out of Dubai who's put this together, and so it gives us some confidence about what this could look like. And it's again, it's as you were saying earlier with something like well chow, you don't want to give it away too early. If we can kind of build the company progressively, get through the 3D, and then come up with some really good prospects. You wouldn't get someone coming in to just shoot some 3D and drill a well. You might get someone to come in and drill 3 or 4 wells. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Any questions?